This is going to be episode 154. Going to continue this character photo bash. I may just turn this into just get the last two done and out of the way um, in this video, so that way it'll be a little longer than an hour. I can finish off because they're the last two for this character in particular. I'm going to do some more later on, but I'm going to try to switch it up some and work out some new ideas. I just kind of wanted to get a dozen of this character, and I think I got them. And it's been fun, it's been interesting, and all in all, it's not my first time photo bashing, but it has been a long time, and I don't do it often enough. So it's been kind of an experience for me to do it, and yeah. So I'm just looking forward to doing it more. I'm pushing it further, and getting better at it to the point of, maybe maybe I could actually learn to finalize these things rather than just put together like a really super rough reference in order for me to draw later on or something like that. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. And other than that, I'm gonna get to it. And I got the new rock stars talking about all the Marvel stuff, mostly the Eternals. I'm sure, and then probably some Resident Arc. Talking about Near Automata, gonna be coming on, like, I don't know in how much time, but here we go. Are they talking about that Marvel or the trailer?
Yeah, nailed it. The Eternals' absence remains the biggest question going into this film, especially since their apparent knowledge of Captain Rogers back to his days in the 40s makes it clear they weren't just sleeping for the past century. So what's really going on here? Marvel Studios' deeper agenda with this Eternals film might be to open us up to the truth that all kinds of beings were living in secret on this planet the whole time. Beings like the mutants. Don't go. I swear, this isn't going to be like WandaVision where we all thought after the years was Quicksilver and M stood for Magneto instead of my name's Boner. Honestly, big X-Men names like that and crossovers with the same actors from the Fox films, that's probably not the way Kevin Feige's going to go with his reboot of these characters. Really, the first and only time he's discussed X-Men in the MCU was at Comic-Con back in 2019, and he deliberately used the term mutants, not X-Men. There's no guy left to talk about mutants. And I think we can read that as a signal that Feige's X-Men plan is really a mutant plan. Pre-X-Men, pre-Wolverine, to properly establish mutant kind in the MCU from its origin points. And I've long believed that Eternals is the perfect place for that backstory. And now this trailer gave us a few clues indicating that could be the direction they're going. The first is this mysterious volcanic eruption, shown only briefly, but if you go through it frame by frame, you can see a flash of gold and a flash of violet white. And then a plume of smoke suddenly disappearing, almost as if some of the Eternals may have been in the heat of this eruption trying to bottle it up, or that other forces may have been in the midst of a kind of battle during this. And then another shot shows the Eternal sprite crying while standing on a lava-covered terrain, like she's mourning some civilization the Eternals were unable to save from this seismic destruction. While some are wondering if this volcano could be the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, as shown in Loki, I'm not so sure, because those volcanoes are clearly different shapes. I think this could be part of the Great Cataclysm, a disaster in an ancient war that involved the Atlanteans, the Deviants, and the Celestials. The Kingdom of Atlantis in Marvel lore, once a land-based kingdom, was attacked by forces of the Deviant Empire, and to stave off the Deviants, the rulers of Atlantis opened up the magma pits beneath the city, but doing so ended up rocking the entire continent with earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Meanwhile, the Deviants were also attacking a second host of Celestials, and the Celestials are like, oh, what? So the Celestials retaliated by causing a nuclear cataclysm on the planet's surface, which ended up sinking both the Deviant-controlled kingdom of Lemuria and the kingdom of Atlantis, both of them plunging into the ocean. Now, in the past MCU, we have gotten at some hints at these kingdoms' existences. Iron Man 2 featured a map with markers for future Marvel locations like Wakanda, as well as some marker in the South Atlantic still yet to be identified. Now, the Eternals film was shot on the Canary Islands, just off the west coast of Africa, not far from that marker. So they may have been trying to go for some geographic similarity there. So, Sprite in this moment could be reacting to the volcanic destruction of either Atlantis or Lemuria in this great cataclysm, and Phineas Horton, a name that actually appeared in the MCU alongside Howard Stark's Expo. That would be a point of history that I theorized the Eternal Fastos could have been supplying Howard Stark with the vibranium or cap shield. Maybe why that shield shows up so much in the trailer. But before I continue, thanks to Bang Energy for sponsoring this video. Every can of Bang has
There
0
we
calories,
go.
0 carbs, 0 sugar, and 0 artificial
Switching it
colors.
up.
Each 16-ounce can contains 300 milligrams of caffeine, super creatine, CoQ10, and branched-chain amino acids. I'm sipping on Birthday Cake Bash, which I feel like I deserve because I had to spend 2 birthdays in a row away from all my friends. There's always next year. Really, I drink a can of Bang whenever I need to pick me up in the morning, or when I need to plow through a long video and I want my mind to be alert, or when I want to take a bite of birthday cake but not have the cakey texture of it. So check out Bang on Instagram. You can get 10% off your order at bangenergy.com when you use the code NewRockStars10. There you can buy a variety pack of Bang Energy, or grab a 12-pack of your favorite like peach mango, lemon drop, rainbow unicorn if you're feeling mystical. Use that code NewRockStars10 and receive 10% off your order of Bang Energy. That's code NewRockStars10 for 10% off. Happy birthday to me. Now the trailer also shows Cersei handing a dagger to some mystery figure. A dagger that actually looks like it was inspired by the ceremonial golden dagger found in the royal tombs of Ur, the Sumerian port city in ancient Mesopotamia. That dagger could have been a token of loyalty from the Eternals to the people of Atlantis. I love the idea of Namor later fashioning this into the pointed end of his spear. Now Kit Harington is playing Dane Whitman in Black Knight, who wields the ebony blade, a weapon that was actually briefly wielded by Namor in the comics. So another way Namor could be tied in this new history. There was that line in Avengers Endgame about undersea earthquakes that Okoye told Natasha to not worry about.
To get a reading on those tremors?
It was a mild subduction under the African plate.
Do we have a visual? How are we handling it?
Net. It's an earthquake under the ocean. We handle it by not handling it.
Perhaps the ancient rivalry between Atlantis and the deviants of Lemuria has rekindled, and Wakanda itself, a people with ancient history, knows all about it and wants to keep it a secret from all the other powers of the planet. But while Namor may be Marvel's first mutant by publishing date, chronologically the first, or at least one of the earliest mutants on Earth was N'Saba Nur, better known as the X-Men villain Apocalypse. And we know this Eternals film is visiting several regions of the world throughout history, from ancient Mesopotamia to what looks like the Spanish conquest of Mesoamerica to ancient Egypt. And assuming we actually get to see the creation process of the Eternals by the Celestials, it seems likely the origins of humankind and mutant kind will also be explored, since the history of all of these is connected in Marvel lore back to the Celestials. The DNA imagery in the Eternals trailer might be pointing to this genetic history, and we know from WandaVision that Wanda Maximoff had some kind of genetic predisposition before her exposure to Infinity Stone radiation, because she was able to cast low-level probability hexes as a young girl before she ever came into contact with the Mind Stone. So, individuals with a mutant gene still seem to exist in the MCU, and Eternals could be the movie that clarifies how all of that began. So really, the mutant clan may be explaining the origins of this world and the societies that live on it, and how some of those people are just mutants. So that kind of opens the door to us understanding how mutants show up everywhere in the future, as opposed to starting with the story of one particular mutant, because we already really saw that in the Fox films. So again, it's probably too soon for a full X-Men lineup right now in the MCU, but Eternals could establish the MCU as a world in which mutants have always existed, and getting us going on a desperate search for where the first mutant of the modern age will appear. So let me know your thoughts on this theory, and to support this channel, check out one of our many great merch options at NewRockstarsMerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EABoss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis and breakdowns of everything Marvel. Thank you for watching. Bye.
100% stain removal, 24-hour stain resistance. Lock in your brightest smile.
Empty, and after months of shaking our fists at Marvel Studios demanding a trailer for the new Eternals movie, it is finally here. Praise the Celestials, hallelujah! And good God, is it looking like a beautiful blast from the past, as this film is confirmed to take place over the course course of thousands of years within the past of the MCU, as far back as the very origins of mankind by the divine sciences of the Celestials. And if comments from Thanos comic creator Jim Starlin are to be believed, there was a good chance that we might run into a certain mad teenager from Titan in Chloe Zhao's new Eternals film as well. That's right, if you think that we have seen the last of Thanos, think again, nerds. But before I get into those theories, I want to let you guys know that this video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build your beautiful online points to the existence of this Eternal inside of the MCU. Now, the reason why I say Mentor is the first Eternal reference and not Thanos is because while Thanos is an Eternal, he's not 100% pure Eternal, or else he wouldn't look like a giant purple Ruffles chip. Thanos was born with something
Ruffles chip
within his blood, which caused his appearance to look more aligned with that of the deviant race, who are the enemies of the Eternals and the genetic mistakes of the celestial experimentation. Now, if Chloe Zhao and Marvel Studios are indeed telling the story of Earth's Eternals that spans thousands of years, it would be kind of difficult to do that without at least touching on Mentor's departure from Earth thousands of years in the past to form a new colony of Earth's Eternals on Saturn's moon of Titan. Now, I believe that when this exact story is told through flashbacks, that we can actually get to see a montage that features the birth and growth of the Mad Titan himself, as he pops purple pimples and, most likely, attempts to follow in his father's footsteps as a scientist on the moon of Titan. A scientist that would, of course, eventually recommend planetary genocide as a solution to Titan's dwindling resource problem. A perspective that I'm assuming that is due to the very deviant mutation within Thanos' genes. Because if you look at the Eternals trailer, it seems that the Eternals have been charged by the Celestials to take care of humanity. And if you're thinking, oh, that's so nice, the Celestials are so sweet, it's such nice space robot-looking people, get that thought out of your mind, okay? Just remove it completely. Because the Celestials were only looking after humanity because the human race were their precious science experiments, because of all that neat cosmic stuff that they did within humanity's DNA. Neat cosmic stuff like the X gene. Anyways, what I'm saying here is that it is within the Eternals' very nature to advocate for the preservation of life, because this is the very reason why they exist in the first place. But because Thanos' genes were mutated by the deviant syndrome, this innate eternal draw toward the preservation of life was warped with a deviant-type ruthless mentality within Thanos' already heavily logical science-based mind that he got from his Papa Mentor. Now, this would be a great way to illustrate how mentally f***ed up the deviant gene can make you, because while they weren't featured within the Eternals teaser trailer, Marvel Studios' official synopsis for the movie confirms the deviants of the planet Earth to be a main antagonistic force for the Eternals, as they are in the comics. But before I continue, like I said before, this video is sponsored by the beautiful people at Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Want to start a website for your business? Maybe your cupcakes or graphic tees or coffee mugs with very good superhero puns are ready to hit the market and start selling. Present your cool stuff using Squarespace's professional portfolio design. Display projects in custom...
Yo, another commercial? God damn. Yo, they just sneak those things in.
Another way we could potentially see a young Thanos in Eternals is through direct contact with the Celestials themselves. Because think about it, the only person that I can think of in the MCU who had universally devastating plans outside of Thanos and maybe Malekith is the Celestial Ego, the living planet. Now, if you think back to the events of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, you'll remember that the Celestial Ego had the power to influence Peter's mind and show him the cosmic perspective. And apparently that shit is so diesel that Peter Quill was fully ready to abandon his new family and the entire universe just because his Sky Daddy tapped him on the forehead. This is because Star-Lord straight up saw the universe the way that cosmic beings see the universe. And when you have the eyes of a god, you start to give as much of a shit about the quality of life of mortal beings just as much as you would insects outside of your house. Now, what if this very thing was done to young Thanos as well? Like, what if the reason why Thanos is called the Mad Titan was because he had his mind touched and driven mad by the Celestials? And I can think of two pretty good reasons why the Celestials could have done this to Thanos.
You know, that's interesting.
You can't really conduct experiments on life if all the life you experiment on lives themselves to death. Because most life in the MCU, of course, exists on planets, and those planets have limited resources and sensitive ecosystems.
Look at that.
And all that. And the Celestials are fully aware of this. Yes, the reproduction of life on those planets is the very goal of the Celestials, so that they can monitor the evolutionary progress of various races over time. But you can't check up on your lab rats if all the lab rats eat all of the cheese and set the maze on fire while you're gone. So, what do the Celestials do? They use an Eternal, of course. Because again, as we can see from the Eternals trailer, that's who the Celestials use to conduct their lab rat maintenance. And what better Eternals use than the genetically mutated beast of a purple that is Thanos of Titan. Like, that dude is like super strong, and his deviant syndrome gives him like super tough skin. The Celestials could have been the very force that initially gave Thanos this cosmic perspective and the drive to start mowing the cosmic lawn by killing off half of everything that exists. This way, not only do the people of these planets get awarded more time to evolve past their original expiration dates, but the Celestials also buy themselves more time to check up on the genetic and evolutionary progress of their experiments throughout the universe. Because I don't know if you guys heard this, but the universe, it's pretty big. Almost as big as your mom. Got him! And anyway, the second reason I have for the Celestials introducing themselves into the life of a young Thanos and driving him crazy is something I like to call the Galactus imperative. Now, in the Marvel comics, the being known as Galactus doesn't eat entire planets in one sitting just because they taste like chicken. Galactus was the universal custodian and a vital part of the universe as a whole. It's a little complicated, but the long story short is, if Galactus stops eating, the universe will become crazy unbalanced, and the continued existence of everything that is good will be canceled, much like Firefly, Parks and Rec, or my 6-year relationship. And since Galactus is a being born at the beginning of time, but has yet to be seen by anyone within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we know about, if this theory is correct, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that something happened to Galactus at some point in the past, and I'm also going to bet that the also MIA Fantastic Four had something to do with it. But that's not what this video is about. But regardless of how Galactus was removed from the equation, there's still a possibility that the universe chose Thanos as Galactus's cosmic understudy. Because what was one of the last things Thanos said before Thor went for the head? Roll the clip, John!
The work is done. It always will be. I am inevitable.
Like, Thanos seemed pretty convinced that the fruits of his labor were inevitable, that something on such a terribly devastating universal scale has happened before and will happen again, even if he is not the one to do it. Again, because the Eternals are the celestial babysitters of life, I think that the Celestials could have given Thanos the universal responsibility of cosmic balance that Galactus originally had. And if this theory is right, and we now live in a universe where Thanos and the celestial tools known as the Infinity Stones are both gone, well, the work now remains unfinished, which means that a new universal threat could be on the horizon. The Annihilation Wave, perhaps? I don't know, but I do know that Papa Feige has got to make the Annihilation Wave happen at some point, because it's so good. It's so good. It's such a good story, guys. You have to read it. But anyways, those are just some ways that we can see a young Thanos appear in the new Eternals movie. But
Oh, you know what? He's not gonna have hair in this one.
what do you guys think, my beautiful nerd babies? How do you guys think a young Thanos will appear in the new Eternals film? Let us know in the comment section below. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you want to watch me tweet
Think he'll appear
on the
thinner.
internet like a madman, you can follow me at Nestertainment on Twitter or on Instagram. But more importantly, you can follow me Rockstars on YouTube and wherever else we are on social media. And make sure to hit the notification bell so you get notifications whenever we upload dope shit, which is fairly constant, so you don't want to miss any of it. But anyways, stay safe. I love you all deeply, and I will see you guys very soon. Catch you guys later.
Peter in the theater. Jordan.
Of course it is. It's what Loki does.
Whoa!
Oh, dang!
Ooh, that looks cool.
Is that a movie?
Oh!
Yo, I got
I'm in, bro! I'm in, bro!
I needed to see that. Loki needed a good punch in the face. Oh, good
That
job.
was amazing. Welcome back to New Rock Stars. The clock is indeed ticking as Loki episode 1 is mere days away, and this latest promo footage gives us a clearer sense of how powerful exactly the TVA agents are compared to the God of Mischief. But what exactly are these agents? Or, as we are going to ask this episode at least, what the clock? We're trying out new things every week, and then we'll ask you guys which one you want.
I dig what the clock though. I dig it.
I like what the clock. And I'll get my own Wilson impression, and I'll raise on the show.
Yo, your own Wilson impression is pretty good. It's pretty impressive. I
I
gotta say.
feel like certain sentences, other ones not so much. Hey, this is Inside Marvel. I'm Eric Kloss. I'm here with MT. How you feeling, MT?
I'm feeling good. I like a good Loki trailer, TV spot, whatever. So like this chaos spot is pretty great. I love it.
It's a good one, yeah. So yeah, we're counting down the days to Loki with weekly episodes looking ahead to really all the Marvel Phase 4 titles. And this week, in addition to talking about new things we're hearing about Loki, we're going to talk about Loki's possible crossover with the other big piece of MCU news we got this week, the Eternals. And also this episode, we're going to talk about a quote we got from Loki showrunner Mike Waldron about how he wants to try to connect to other MCU titles. We're also going to talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson, because that's some big Marvel news we want to address.
Massive news.
Oh, yeah. So a reminder to check out NewRockstarsMerch.com for all of our great merch options. We got shirts like this one, we got hoodies, jackets, water bottles, whatever you need. NewRockstarsMerch.com. We got a new Loki design in the works. Hopefully we'll be able to announce it next week. But MT, what's our first question this week?
Well, our first what the clock of the day is, what the clock exactly are the agents of the TVA, and what type of life forms are they?
Yeah, how powerful are these things?
Because they seem pretty powerful, because they decked Loki in the face of it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, in Marvel Comics, and you can fact check me on this, MT, the TVA is just mostly depicted as this vast bureaucratic agency whose rules everyone kind of just has to follow. They have a seemingly endless number of chrono monitors, each one for each timeline. They got an infinite army of Minutemen visiting their cops. They just arrest and detain any violators. They got this hierarchy of judges that decide these cases and enforce them. But I don't know. I don't think you often see these god-level characters waging war against the TVA, or like Loki says in the show, to burn this place to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mostly are just like, they use the fear of the rule of law to enforce their power, as opposed to any kind of physical might or magical ability.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of instances where, like, you know, gods like Loki or anybody really interact with the TVA. The TVA are really, like, this really authoritative authority. Like, the A of the TVA is very strong. So, like, because they exist outside of time and space, it's like, we have, like, bigger jurisdiction than most other beings that reside inside of the Marvel Universe. So,
Yeah, they aren't any particular known species. They're really just like cogs of the universe, performing a very specific function just to keep everything running on time and to make sure the rules are broken. So yeah, the power isn't in their bodies; it's really in the agency they serve. But it seems like Marvel Studios is doing something a bit different. In this Loki footage, there is a ton of fighting and conflict and fists swung at each other's faces. Winnie Musaku decked Loki.
100%.
Nasty hook there.
Yo, I replayed that like as many times as I could because it's so satisfying. It's so satisfying.
It's great to see. And like, yeah, we'll see in this trailer Loki getting like ricocheted around a TVA viewing room. We also see other characters like the creator DiMartino's character, maybe Lady Loki sparring with TVA guards. And then yeah, they use these staff-like weapons that painfully erase people from existence, kind of disintegrating them.
Yes. I think that this could actually be like a miniaturized version of the retcon canon of the TVA, which they use to erase people from timelines. So like it's so cool to see that visual.
Yeah, it's now this handheld weapon. That's pretty cool. And it's pretty visceral, like his scream. It scared the shit out of Loki. But what's different in when you're comparing this to the comics have it's a weird, quirky world where things are just introduced for the stakes of the story. Whereas when you're bringing in the cinematic universe, things all kind of have to cohabitate, you know. So, and Mike Waldron even says like the TVA is probably going to connect to other things in future Marvel. So we have to get a sense of what the power balance is when it comes to the TVA, and the fact that they're able to arrest Loki, who is a super powerful sorcerer. He possesses an Infinity Stone when they get him. That tells us that this group must be among the most powerful beings in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah, they have.
Yeah. And it makes me think into might be derived from something beyond, from some kind of cosmic level.
Yeah.
Like they're telling us the timekeepers, but I'm thinking it might come from someone on the celestial or cosmic level, maybe someone like Kronos, who's the master of time. And I
Oh my
think
God,
Kronos
yeah.
is an interesting name to look at because he's related to Thanos. He's Thanos' grandfather. He's Alaris's father. He's also Zurus' father. And Zurus was Thena's father. Thena and Thanos are first cousins. And
It's
so
such a
we'll get
weird
this
thing.
Eternals movie where this whole family tree can get explored.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we're definitely going to see that their family, the family tree of Thanos explored in the Eternals, and like we even
Yeah.
got Alar's mentioned in Avengers Infinity War.
Infinity War, yeah.
Yes, Infinity War. Yes, not Endgame.
Absolutely.
So like yeah, they're definitely teasing that line. And so if we got Alar's in the MCU already, Kronos have got to be somewhere. So yeah, I do
Yeah.
like that Kronos connection there.
And one thing I've started to explore more and more into is this idea that the Celestials may have been okay with what Thanos did or what he was trying to do to snap half of all life out of existence. We know that the Celestials had this history with the Infinity Stones. Isan or Essen, we were talking before the show, we don't know if it's Isan or Essen. But whoever that Celestial was in the Collector's story in Guardians of the Galaxy had the Power Stone. And Nebula said in Endgame that the Soul Stone was at the center of celestial existence. And I think there's this connection there. They may have sent Thanos on this mission to do this.
Yeah.
And that could, and maybe that's there right now with the Eternals, right? Is like the Eternals have been sponsoring the Avengers. They love Captain America so much. And Captain America and Iron Man, all their friends, are the ones who stopped Thanos' mission. And the TVA, notice they arrest Loki. They're more upset with like people screwing up with the timeline. Why didn't they arrest Thanos at any point? You know, for his stealing of the Time Stone. And that must mean that according to the TVA, what Thanos did was the correct path, was the rightful future. So that tells us they are at least neutral, no opinion, or totally okay with what Thanos did, because it was just what time was supposed to be. And now they're getting mad at people who meddled with that timeline. To them, that's a bigger violation than Thanos committing genocide on a cosmic scale. So I just find it interesting that they could be linked to this higher power that would be okay with what Thanos did. And now the big conflict that the Avengers of Earth are facing, maybe the Eternals of Earth are facing, is going to be with groups like the TVA and other cosmic universal authorities who actually kind of wanted Thanos to carry that out.
I mean, yeah, like the common thread between the TVA and Thanos, like you were alluding to earlier, is that these sort of were acting like universal custodians in a way, you know, because like Thanos was trying to make sure that like all life in the universe can continue, and so the TVA wants to make sure that all time in the universe can continue. So like, you know, the TVA could very much be down with what Thanos was doing, because what if this is not the first time that a Thanos type figure has been running, you know, what do you call it, running maintenance on the universe, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There we
So,
go.
you know, it could just be like, oh man, like Thanos is completely fine, you know? Until, you know, I feel like the TVA would not be cool with Thanos until he destroyed all the stones, because now the stones are outside of the timeline.
Right.
So, you
Yeah,
know.
if we're comparing this all to the sci-fi of authors like Douglas Adams, right? Like in the 70s, when a lot of these comics were being written, like they were totally inspired by Hitchhiker's Guide and a lot of sci-fi like that. A common theme in that kind of sci-fi humor is that Earth is just a small part of the universe, and the interest of Earth is often completely in conflict with the interests of other larger bodies.
Right.
And the way that Hitchhiker's Guide begins with Earth being paved away for interstellar superhighway. That's kind of like what the TVA probably sees as well. They don't care about the Earth. Galactus obviously doesn't care about the people of any one planet. He feeds off of planets. You know, Silver Surfer is kind of co-opted into that. So what we're going to start to see as the MCU starts to go more cosmic, that's the front of the war that we're going to be fighting on, are the Avengers and people who are loyal to Earth, fighting against these cosmic forces who are indifferent. And to me, I lump in the TVA with those cosmic forces.
Well, yeah, you got it. I mean, I love that type of perspective, because we're human beings on Earth. We're just like, yeah, Earth is like the most important thing in the world, but like it's just a small speck in a massive, massive universe. And like we cannot, and like the people of MCU are cannot comprehend the overall, goals of these cosmic beings. So like,
Right.
we're sort of messing things up with like the events of Endgame and everything, and like, messing with the Tesseract and like messing with all the Infinity Stones. So, I'm sure the Celestials and the TVA cannot stand MCU Earth. It's like, what is going on here? Why are these people so weird?
Right. So we're going to talk more about the TVA and about other big Marvel news. First, we want to thank some people who helped us make this episode. Starting with our friends at Credit Karma Money. We all like instant gratification. With Credit Karma Money, you can win cash reimbursements for contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers. We've learned that there's always a catch. That's what sets Mint Mobile apart. They're noticeably catch-free. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online to you. Better. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless
Holy
service
shit, more
to
commercials.
Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Bluetooth is an online prescription service, so no doctor's office or pharmacy trips. It ships right to your door in a discreet package. You sign up at Bluetooth.com, consult with one of your licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you receive your prescription within days. Their licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength. And Blue Chew is chewable, just like it says in the name, which is great news for folks that don't like swallowing pills. So, if you can benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we've got a special deal for our audience. Try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code InsideMarvel at checkout. Just pay the $5 in shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code Marvel to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this show. All right, so back to Loki.
Yes.
There's this interesting line in the promo, MT, where Mobius and Mobius told Loki, like, you brought chaos to our timeline. Which is just interesting because the TVA is supposed to oversee all these different timelines. So what is this? What timeline are they attached to? Does that mean he is specifically attached to this timeline, or is there like a prime timeline in the way that the Marvel Studios is doing it?
That's a good question. I think that there is like a prime timeline. Like the timeline the main universe is set in is the main timeline. Like, and so the timeline that we're in Loki that he branches off to, he sort of makes his own timeline. And I think that from what we learned in Avengers Endgame with the Ancient One, I think that when a timeline gets branched off, that timeline's basically sort of doomed because there aren't like all 6 Infinity Stones inside of that timeline. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the TVA especially cares about if branch timelines sort of get all wrong because like it's that main timeline they're trying to preserve. So like maybe that chaos on that purple planet is a timeline just going to shit because there isn't all 6 Infinity Stones in it. But who knows?
I like that idea a lot. Or that maybe there are 2 Tesseracts in that, or 2 Space Stones in that universe, and it causes the rules of spatial relationships between planets and heavenly bodies to break down and fall apart, and moons crash into their surfaces that the planets would be the satellite of. Like, and it's so weird in this promo footage that after Loki gets booked and he's in his detainee jumpsuit, you still see him holding that Tesseract, which, like, what does that mean? They don't want the Tesseract to be destroyed, or they don't want the Space Stone to be destroyed. They remove the Space Stone from the Tesseract. It's like, there's a lot of mystery of who built that Tesseract around the Space Stone.
Exactly.
Because the Tesseract was understood to be something different before, people knew it was an Infinity Stone there.
Yeah, like what is the purpose of the actual Tesseract container? Like I've always wanted to learn like what is going on. What is that weird glow inside of the Tesseract box that surrounds the actual space Infinity Stone? Like what these questions need to be answered because like
can the Tesseract open portals without the Space Stone? I think the implication is no. It needs only the Space Stone can have those kind of bifrost.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's what the whole deal with Project Pegasus is. I think that a lot of that that weird goo inside of that weird like sludge or whatever it is inside of the Tesseract is dark energy, right? Because like Project Pegasus is really messing around with it. So you could learn like, hey, this is a box that contains dark energy, which it kind of contains the power of the Space Stone. I don't know, but like Project Pegasus definitely saw the value. We're trying to break down the Tesseract.
Yeah, I think so. It's early in MCU Phase 1, one, I think they called it the Tesseract, but it was really based on the Cosmic Cube, which was
Right.
a different thing. And it wasn't until, what do we want to say, around Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it started with Thor: The Dark World was the first one to introduce the idea of Infinity Stones, which even if you go back and rewatch that movie, clearly they brought in Anthony Hopkins in ADR after the fact to mention the idea of an Infinity Stone, and I think it's because they were working on Age of Ultron at that point.
Right.
Like they started to write Age of Ultron while Thor: The Dark World was in post-production. So I guess that somewhere in there, Kevin Feige was talking with Joss Whedon, and they're like, let's start laying the seeds for this in some of these movies. And at that point, they made the Tesseract the container of the Space Stone.
Maybe. And that seems like a really rational, like logical way of how things could have gone. So,
But it was done. The point is, it was done after the fact. You know,
Yeah.
like they didn't plan all this out ahead of time. It was kind of like, well, let's make as many Marvel movies as people will be willing to go see. And then once it was super popular, they're like, oh, let's kind of retcon some of this stuff and make it all connect.
See, like that does make sense, but like I don't know, man. I just feel like Kevin Feige has really been like he's had like an idea of like all this stuff since like probably as early as like Avengers 1, maybe. Like
I
from
think
what
he's
can tell.
had a broad vision, and the guy's been a genius. I'm not saying this to knock him at all.
Oh, yeah.
It's just I don't think he's had a perfect vision of everything, because otherwise they wouldn't have made the stones the color they made them. They would have just matched it with the color from the comics. They wouldn't have put Thanos' gauntlet in Odin's Hall, because you could see them make these little jokes afterwards where the pictures of the same thing.
This is
Like,
true.
there are all these little details where, I mean, there was even like Mephisto in the paperwork that Nick Fury gave Cap in the first Avengers movie. So clearly,
Yeah,
they
see,
didn't-
so I guess I'll be,
like, oh, we're gonna do the Infinity Gauntlet.
I'll just do the last two in this video, because I'm pretty much already done with this one.
Sword reference within,
You know?
Agent Carter
Pretty sure I am.
shot, when she opens
Like,
up
this is where we started.
sword to shield and all that stuff, I'm like,
This is where we're at.
has it been around for that long? Wait,
Yeah, I
time
think
out.
Selvig
This is where we
mentioned,
started.
at the end of Thor. He's talking
And
about
Cyclops.
Shield and Sword, I think. Right, you have to listen closely when you're listening to the captions.
Okay, so like, has Sword really just been in the universe all this time and I just didn't know?
I think
Oh yeah, I forgot to add something to that last one that I worked on.
I know everything, Eric. I just don't know things.
But now I'm thinking maybe I just,
I remember
I just maybe add it to this one.
with James Gunn saying that like they changed the
If I can. I don't know if it'll work. I was gonna add this to the last one that I worked on.
Production of Guardians of the
Yeah, it's
Galaxy.
gonna be
1.
red.
So yeah, so like you're right. Like things sort of just like they're figuring things out on the way. Sort of.
Right,
So,
yeah.
for sure.
Now let's talk about Eternals, right? Do you think Loki could cameo in Eternals? Because Eternals had that volcano eruption, and a lot of people were like, "Whoa, is that Mount Vesuvius that we saw in the background of the Loki footage?"
Mm.
I'm not so sure about that, but what do you think, MT?
I think that it'd be a great way for to connect the Eternals to the broader MCU, and like they're going across time the long way, and like Loki's popping through time. So like I think that that's highly possible. We might even see Eternals in Loki as like a little primer for what's to come, because like that's what these Marvel shows sort of do. It's like, hey, we're sort of like a nice little spice to the movie MCU. So yeah, I think that there's some crossover potential there. What do you think? What you get?
Potential for sure. Here's the deal: I want Loki to cameo in everything, and part of me still thinks that dude in the background who kind of looks like Tom Hiddleston in Avengers Endgame when they're in the 70s at Camp Lehigh. There's some dude sitting on a bench, and I know I pointed that in the video before. Like, was that Loki in the 70s? Hanging out at Camp Lehigh watching him steal the Tesseract.
That'd be so great.
If they tied that game's whoa, oh my god, that would be
Wonderful.
insane.
Masterpiece.
But yeah, I just think the shape of that volcano in the Eternals trailer just looks different than the shape of the volcano. We don't really know fully what Vesuvius looked like. That was 79 AD. But in the Loki footage, they used footage from Mount St. Helens, which had a kind of a flatter shape to it, whereas this is a bit more pointed. And I think it's more likely that that's some civilization the Eternals failed to protect or failed to save. And I'm hoping that ends up being Atlantis, and the volcano erupts and it causes the land mass to break off and sink into the ocean.
Oh my god. It's something, yeah, like that'd be like a really great way to like tease Namor, because like we're gonna get Namor very soon. He's gotta come.
I hope so.
And like they gotta cast what's his name, Glenn from Walking Dead. Stephen Yeun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stephen Yeun would be great.
Stephen Yeun.
He'd be great. That guy needs to get in the MCU. Cast him.
Oh, for sure. He's going to be in the MCU eventually. Like he's too great of an actor.
Amazing. And a really nice guy. He used to perform at the Improv Theater. He always had a huge crowd. It would be fun because he would play in one of the back theaters, and he could play on any stage he wanted. But he just had a friend who hosted a show in one of the back theaters, and those were the tiny stages me and my indie teams would put up shows. And it'd be like normally you have like 12 people in the audience. It's just you and the other teams that are performing, just watching you. That's it.
Yeah.
But there'd be one I had like a 10:30 show, and then I would see like 50 people come out of the theater from the show before, and I'd be like, what the hell is going on? And these are people you never see at the theater before, all younger folks.
Yeah.
And then the last one to come out and be, oh, Steven. That's why there are 50 people crammed in there. Because you're just doing it
have
after
that
the
power,
show.
you know? It's just it's that human magnetism. Just like they just come to it, you know?
Yeah. Now, actually, I should read this quote exactly from Mike Walter. He did an interview, I think it was with Total Film, and he said, quote, all of these stories in their own way are interconnected and have ramifications. I think that certainly our aim with the Loki series was for it to have wide-reaching ramifications across the MCU moving forward. So, was I having to clean up some of the messes that I made with Loki? Maybe so. So, yeah, there you go. I think that's, if he said he was just trying to tell his own story, as most of these other people do, like when he asked the showrunners of WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, he's saying, no, I want to connect to as many things as I possibly can, which makes me really excited for this show, which our next question kind of addresses that.
Okay, so our next what the clock of the day is, in this trailer, Loki says a bit of both. Something that Wanda chirps in episode 3 of WandaVision, of course. So could Loki join Wanda in spreading chaos in the multiverse of madness, Eric?
Yeah, I hope so, right? Like, that seems like the perfect place for Loki to pop up. I mean, both titles, Loki and Multiverse of Madness, are dealing with, like, the fragility of reality, right? And how you screw with the rules of the universe, chaos is going to come from that. And this term chaos coming up in this trailer, it seems synonymous with Multiverse of Madness, right?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, Loki is a god of chaos. He's not the god of chaos, but like he's a god of mischief. And so like, it'd be a great way to, like sort of connect that chaos, that like, concept that Loki is sort of introducing to these different realities to Multiverse of Madness. Like there is definitely some sort of type of connection there. But like I don't know if Loki will end up connecting to Multiverse of Madness directly, because like I think that there may just be a difference between timelines, branch timelines, and like actual different universes. Because like I think that one universe can have a zillion different timelines, and like each universe might have their own TVA. I don't know, but like I just think that all of the timelines that we're going to see in Loki are contained into the one Marvel, the MCU that we know. So I don't know, but there is a definite connection there with chaos for sure.
Right. And I'm with you. I'm not certain this means Loki. Obviously, both been saying a bit of both. Doesn't mean that he's got a cameo.
I mean, Star Lord said that too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A lot of people say that. But I think just the nature of the characters do lead themselves to be in similar kind of stories for sure. I would say that when it comes to the way Marvel Studios is structuring their multiverse, the fact that Endgame was all about time and timelines leads me to think that timelines are going to be the way they distinguish one reality from the other. And that's only because that they could have done anything to do the logic of Endgame. They didn't have to make it a time travel movie. They could have used magic of branch realities. And I'm just going to an alternate reality and we're pulling it from there. They could have, they didn't have to make it something that had to teach us something about quantum mechanics and the EPR paradox and stuff. That was a choice, and I think that was deliberate by Kevin Feige. He told the writers of that movie, I want time travel to be part of this. I want timelines to be an element of this movie. And they're like, okay, all right, cool. And the reason we bring up Endgame so much is it's not only the most profitable movie like ever for Marvel. It's the fact that like Marvel is obsessed with Endgame. Marvel referenced Endgame in both of their titles since then. It's all about the events of that movie were so game changing. every Marvel title since then has been kind of obsessed with it. I assume Black Widow won't be, but
Yeah.
it seems like everything else will be. So yeah, I think since that movie's about timelines, I think the MCU going forward will be kind of about timelines.
Yeah, I mean, like you're totally right. That's the first movie that really introduced the concept of branching timelines and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I definitely, for sure, at Marvel Studios definitely sees the value of Endgame, and will keep referencing Endgame and like the ramifications of Endgame moving forward. I mean, we got a whole movie called Quantumania coming out.
Yeah,
and, like, that is
exactly.
hardcore
Exactly.
leading on Endgame. So
Yeah, for sure.
this is great.
Well, speaking of the Maximoff family, let's talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson being cast as Kraven the Hunter by Sony. And it's going to be a solo film.
I hate hiding his hair
They announced it would be a
in
solo
this
film
in this
last year, I
bit.
believe. It's kind of like what they're doing with Morbius Living Vampire,
Kind of like the
Venom,
hair.
and Venom Let There Be Carnage. It seems like these are all other Spider-Man villain movies where the villain is kind of the anti-hero of the story, and Spider-Man won't be in it. And it looks like it'll be based on the storyline of Kraven's Last Hunt, which is an amazing comic event that I highly recommend you check out. Really, really delves into the character of Kraven as this kind of tragic figure. Very cool. What are your thoughts on this, MC?
I think that this is a huge piece of news because like I think that this is part of like something that I've been thinking about ever since WandaVision. It's something called the Boner effect, named after Ralph Boner. And because people are like, oh my God, why isn't Evan Peters playing Quicksilver? Like that was the big question. And I think that every universe has the same faces, like the same actor faces, but sometimes they're in different roles. And so when I heard that Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to be Kraven the Hunter, I was like, oh my God, this makes sense because this is the face of Pietro, or or I should say Aaron Taylor Johnson, in another universe being portrayed as Kraven. So like this makes me feel that we're gonna see this Kraven within whatever Spider Verse type Sinister Six is going on because he probably has his own dealings with maybe a different version of Spider-Man. Like what if there's like a Spider-Man that's literally like insane, is like murdering people or whatever. It's like I have to hunt this guy. He's my biggest prey. And so like whenever whoever comes to pick Kraven up to be part of the Sinister Six is like, well, in my universe,
Hell
Spider-Man's
yeah.
insane. So like, yeah, I'll join you guys, whatever. So this is like the beginnings of like multiverse shenanigans, and like it's gonna be great. Well, how do you feel about this?
I'm okay with it. I don't really have an opinion either way. I think a couple different camps of people were annoyed with this news. You have the group of folks who wanted Craig to be played by someone else, like Jason Momoa or something like that. But whenever I hear that, it annoys me whenever people are cast in roles and then everyone on Twitter becomes a casting director. It's like, why don't you just trust actors to act? Like it's the same thing with Heath Ledger. When Heath Ledger was announced for Dark Knight, everyone was like, "Oh, pretty boy Heath Ledger." It's like, trust him to be an actor. Like you can actors' jobs are to emulate and to change their bodies, to change their voices, to change their mannerisms, to convey something. So suspend your disbelief. Don't just attach a face to a character forever. But the other side of this is, I think people are also kind of weirded out by Sony taking a well-known superhero face from the MCU, but I think that also tells us that Marvel did not have plans to bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson as Pietro. So for those people who thought that the reason they made Evan Peters just Ralph Boner and not the Fox version of Quicksilver is because they had plans to bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson. It sounds like neither of those are Marvel's plan. And the question then becomes, well, then what is Marvel's plan? Because we should have some version of Quicksilver in the MCU. The reason we should have every Marvel hero in some form in the MCU. I think eventually we're looking ahead at a multiverse reset. I think sometime in the next 3 or 4 years, there's just going to be some event because all these actors' contracts are going to run out. Chris Hemsworth isn't going to be the only person playing Thor forever, and you're going to start seeing all these roles recast. And that way we'll have everyone be able to come back. Any character that might have been killed off, you can bring back other new people and recast whoever you want. And I think that's going to be their plan with all the X-Men, Quicksilver, Wolverine.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the X-Men, the proper MCU X-Men, whenever they show up, they're going to be new iterations. But I do feel like we are going to get, like you said, like some type of event, like maybe a Secret Wars or something, where we see,
Yeah.
our favorite Quicksilver from the Fox universe, where we see, maybe the Fantastic Four with Chris Evans making an appearance as part of the Boner Effect.
See, I don't think that's gonna happen. I
You don't
think
think so?
no, I don't think they're gonna bring in Hugh Jackman. I don't think they're gonna bring in Ian McKellen. The fact they brought in Evan Peters, I don't think they brought. I think once Evan Peters was revealed as Ralph Boner,
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
that kind of put the nail in the coffin to those theories. Because other than Ryan Reynolds coming over as Deadpool, what other actors is Marvel interested in bringing back? And those actors are also interested in coming back. Hugh Jackman's done. I don't think he wants to play.
Well, like, I don't think that, if they do like bring in like past actors, I don't think it's gonna be for the long haul. I think it's probably gonna be for like this celebratory, like this is Marvel, like Secret Wars type movie where it's like this is one contained event, and then they're gone forever, and now we're moving forward.
See, I
Like,
don't even think they're going to do that because
Really?
that one event is going to be huge, and I think they'd be worried, rightfully so, that it would confuse fans' minds. So then who is Wolverine in this universe? I'd pay money to see this guy right now as Wolverine. So it's going to make it more confusing if in the next movie they're like, just kidding, here's a Wolverine. I think Marvel's going to invest its money in whatever their new people are. Also, this is a financial consideration. Those actors, even for a cameo, is going to be expensive as hell.
it's true.
You could save so much more money by just casting actors who have not been in a ton of stuff but are still super talented and giving them a chance to play these roles. I think that's going to be their way forward. I don't think they're gonna dust off Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen.
Oh man,
all these
it would
people.
be. I just feel I really feel like a Secret Wars type deal is coming. Where like,
And I agree. I think a
Yeah.
Secret Wars type deal is coming too, but it's going to be with new actors playing these characters. I don't think it's going to be with the old actors. It's just not how Hollywood works.
Okay, I mean like that's very logical though. That's very logical. So like that's probably a very likely route to go take. But like, man, I just feel like there's a lot of money to be made within this huge multiverse Flash thing.
There we go.
I mean, it's the same way, like, they're not recasting Wesley Snipes as Blade. They're bringing in Mahershala Ali. There are bigger names right now who get to play these roles.
Bringing Wesley Snipes is awesome.
Just as much.
God damn, that's a transformation and a half.
If you're trying to get, whoever your dream cast is from the past installments, getting Chris Evans to play, they'd rather have Chris Evans play Captain America in some of them.
I do hate cutting off the hair though. Oh well.
But I mean, that's just my thinking on it. Whatever. I've been wrong before with how.
Oh no, like it's very logical. I mean, I'm just thinking like with my bright eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, it'd be great to see everything back.
Yeah.
I love again. But like,
Me too. I mean, I'd love to see Jackman come back. I just don't think it's gonna happen.
yeah.
But I do think that one thing when it comes to this Aaron Taylor Johnson news,
Hmm.
Sony's got to figure out their version of a live-action Spider-Man, and I don't think they can either. It's a contractual thing or a financial thing. They can't get Tom Holland in there to play Peter Parker in the movies because it's a Spider-Man movie. But it doesn't make sense for all these characters to just be in their own worlds without Spider-Man in it because all of their existence are directly tied to Spider-Man. It was weird in the first Venom movie to have this Venom story without Spider-Man in it. I think it's going to be weird in Venom Let There Be Carnage. I think it's going to be super weird in Morbius. And it seems like they're kind of walking this line of having like Spider-Man sightings, but Peter Parker's not going to be in it. So like, bring in Miles Morales. Like, do something to have a Spider-Man in the story. And I like your idea Nancy, of having Spider-Man be the villain of that universe.
That'd be dope.
But I think audiences are going to reject it after a while. Of like, why am I watching this story?
I mean, yeah, but like something that just popped into my brain when you were talking is that like, what if the reason why there are no Spider-Mans in Venom's universe or like potentially Craven's universe is that Moreland and the Inheritors killed them before their stories even began. Like, what if this is part of the Spider-Verse narrative? It's like there is no Spider-Man because he's dead. Like he was.
Yeah. I
Like-
want that. I would love that.
That would be a great
If
thing.
that's the reason behind it. I think the hard part, for a lot of fans is we love the version of Spider-Man that we have right now with Tom Holland.
Oh yeah.
And like Tom Holland's not going to be playing this part forever,
Yeah,
but
you know what?
to be honest, the reason they have this
Nah.
deal with Marvel is because
I'll just let this rock.
Kevin Feige's guidance in it for in Endgame. Like, it's this sense of a promise that just around the corner from him are the Avengers.
Boom.
And the Avengers are connected to this story. I think
Man,
we
this
need
screen is really burning. I wonder if it's because it's set like too bright. Like if I make it less bright,
and
can you see it a little better?
deliver that, then
Because like I could see like his whole ear is burned out on the recording,
Sony is
but it's there.
stories. But
See, like I think what you're seeing now is more of what I'm seeing, but my screen is like mad dark.
Sony would have to be in dire financial
So I,
straits to do that. And right now,
yeah, even if I make it just a little bit brighter,
aside from
it like burns out everything right here. That's a shame.
To who? I ain't got one. I get
See,
so hard to
ears
get
there.
PS5, dude. It's so annoying. Oh god. But like, yeah, no, for sure. Like I feel like Sony's not really willing to sell Spider-Man because he's a cash cow in more than
He
one
makes
way.
so much money.
So
Even the
much
profit
money.
share that they get with Disney, because Disney's taking a bigger chunk of it, Sony still can bankroll all their other investments in terms of film production budgets with just the money they make from these Spider-Man movies. Even Venom, without Spider-Man in it, made a shit ton of money for them.
Yeah, like those Spider-Man
All right, let's get on
movies,
this
like,
last
like
piece.
whole like stories since like he started. There's so many interesting characters in his universe that like
Yeah.
Sony, struggles with making individual properties for outside of the Marvel universe, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, it's just really frustrating. But
Yeah.
whatever.
We'll take we get a. I'm excited for Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think
Hell
he's a
yeah.
great actor. I think he's gonna act the hell out of
This
it.
is great casting. This is
He's gonna
fantastic.
be really good in
Like,
this role.
he's gonna kick ass. It's gonna be
So definitely makes me more excited for this movie than I was before.
Mm.
Aaron Taylor Johnson's great, and I'm excited to see what Marvel eventually does for the X-Men and Quicksilver. I think they're looking forward, not looking to the past. Maybe that's for the best. But let us know your comments down below. I'm sure you will either way. It's okay to disagree with us. Just try to be respectful to
Be
each other.
nice, everybody. It's okay
Yeah.
to disagree. Just be like,
Yeah.
hey guys, this is why I don't agree. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
saying
dialogue.
neither of us are saying the studios have to do one thing or another. We don't own these characters, right?
Yeah.
So
Just
we're
kidding.
not. Yeah, one day we are gonna get our own studios to run it.
We're starting to
But,
go fund.
yeah, but in the meantime, we're not gonna gatekeep and say that the studios have to do one thing over another, right? That's not
It's not our style. It's not what we do.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Marvel. We'll be back next Friday for one more Friday episode of Inside Marvel, but then after that, we're moving to Wednesdays
It's Wednesdays,
for our Loki after shows. It's gonna be fun. So follow MT at Max Entertainment, follow me at EA Boss, follow New Rockstars, and subscribe to Inside Marvel wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to New Rockstars here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
The new Eternals trailer finally awakens the godlike protectors of Earth after apparently snoozing or sitting out of every MCU crisis. But why now are they entering the chat? What new threat is dragging them out of obscurity? Or are they really the friends who just show up to help you move only after all the big stuff is unloaded, but still take the biggest slices of pizza? This is Rogue Theories, a show where we pitch the wildest theories for the movies we love. I'm Eric Bosco, and Rogue with me today is a panel I'm so excited about. We got MT here. Hey, MT.
Hey, what's going on, Eric? Oh man, it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good, man.
It's gonna be good. We got Jessica Clemens back on the show.
Hi.
And yes, we're thrilled to welcome to New Rockstars comedian and host of the Flirts in the Hood show, Jay Washington. Welcome, Jay.
Oh man, I feel like I made it. I've been trying to get here for the longest, and it's like I just want to make sure I'm good. I clean my fingernails. I think like I want to make sure they think. I don't want people zooming in on my nails in the video. Be like, look at this beautiful. I'll be like, why do you think this is my cute?
And
No,
now,
man.
it's enhanced now.
Fingernails up to your camera right this second.
But no, I'm happy to be here. Seriously, I'm excited to talk about this and the subject because I'm one of the 8 people I know total in the world that was like, yeah, this could be fun. I'm like 8 people.
Bro, I am one of those.
Wow, 3 of the 8 of them are in this one video.
Yes.
You'll have to guess which 3. mean, that's what I love about Eternals is like all of us on YouTube right now are like, yeah, okay, so here, this is what the Eternals are, but all of us are like, wait, we're the Eternals, we're the Eternals. Because the Eternals, despite like what some of us sound like we're talking confidently, we're all kind of playing catch up, like, because they're not one of the bigger names.
Yeah, they're not super popular, so it's easy to like sort of forget those Eternals and Eternals.
But you gotta know the weird stuff. I think that's the thing you forget. Marvel, I always say this. When Marvel did Guardians of the Galaxy, they proved they could do whatever they wanted. Because you ask 95% of comic book fans or comic book movie fans, they had no idea who the Guardians were unless they watched the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. And so when they were able to make you love a talking raccoon and a talking tree, the fact you hear about people who've been around since almost the beginning of time, and now you're like, oh yeah, it's Angelina Jolie. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Exactly. Great point, Jay. And I think the question we're now asking is kind of that question now in the MCU is like, why are the Eternals returning now in particular? Where, like, we can ask where they've been, but like, there's this interesting description that they're putting out for the movie. It's official from Marvel saying, after an unexpected tragedy following the events of Avengers Endgame, the Eternals, an immortal alien race created by the Celestials, who have secretly lived on Earth for over 7,000 years, reunite to protect humanity from their evil counterparts, the Deviants. But like, have the Deviants come back if that's the case? What is this unexpected tragedy, and what has kept them from intervening in all these previous MCU crises? Yeah, go ahead,
Go for it,
John.
Jay. Go for it.
So again, I've been rereading my Eternal Dreaming Celestial Saga. Like this is 400 some pages, and then I have the Cosmic Origins. I've been rereading these for a while. Like I read them a long time ago. So what it is, I've had this theory for the longest. The snap, so they're dormant as to them being eternal in their minds, right? Sprite, who's played by Liam McHugh, is going to make them dormant. After 4 snaps, remember it's 4 snaps total. The initial snap Thanos does in Infinity War, the second snap he does to get rid of the stones, the third snap that Hulk does to bring everybody back, and the 4th snap that Iron Man does. All 4 of those snaps, as Rocky said, releases a bunch of cosmic energy. That lets the Celestials possibly know to come back. Who else is a Celestial? Galactus. Who else doesn't wake up instead of the Eternals? The Deviants who've been living below the Earth. So everybody wakes up, and all of a sudden, Sprite is the only one that, even though she's a kid, she still knows kind of who she is. Icarus has a clue, but Sprite will start waking more likely everybody up. And again, it's like now, as they said, phase 4 and 5, we're going more cosmic and quantum with everything. So now, what's this bigger threat? A Celestial. The Celestials that made the Eternals, humanity, and the Deviants. And then again, Galactus is an Eternal. I mean, a Celestial. As well as Ego Living Planet, but he hella there. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, that seems like the way to go, right? Is the snap just affects all these things, and we saw how cool it was when WandaVision revisited the moment where everyone kind of reapparated from the snap, right? Like, I want to know who among the Eternals might have been Dustin, you know, and how that affected all of them. But for sure, like bringing in Galactus, and it's like this is such a prime opportunity to bring Galactus in the MCU.
I agree with Jerry. I think it's a great way for them to come in. It makes the most sense. But also, I disagree. I could have a T-shirt that says "I disagree." But I'm bringing in the truck. So I think that when I know that in the comics there was Crow that kind of was like, we're gonna turn humans on each other so that the Celestials can see that humans are just garbage. But I think Druid is actually going to be trying to do something like that, and he's going to be the one that's starting the chaos. And that's when we see Sprite. I think Sprite did have everyone lay dormant, and Sprite has been. So I think Sprite is still doing that, like the Neil Gaiman, like still doing TV and being like crazy and fancy. But I think it's also doing it with Kumail's character too. So I think both of them are aware that they are Eternals, but the other Eternals are still dormant, and they don't want to wake them up because they don't want to get back to doing what the Eternals are supposed to be doing. But when Druid starts having all the humans and the Celestials come in, that's when they're like, we can't do this on our own. We have to go wake up everyone else. And I think that's when we see that scene of the volcano erupting and the clouds going dark and the light shooting up. Those are the Celestials showing up in different parts of the world. And I think that's when we see Cersei and Black Knight hanging out together because they're dating. I think when we saw
That's a boy toy. That's not dating. That's Cersei boy toy. She got it as a boy toy.
What do you want to call it?
I love it either way, but I think when hey, I'm here for boy toys. But I think when we saw her walking and what was it? I think it was ancient Babylon, but also in the same jacket she was wearing in New York. I think that was Cersei coming too. I think she's in New York, but she's remembering, I used to walk these streets. I'm Cersei, like the Eternal. And I think that's why we're seeing like her with Black Knight
Shit.
now
Step
present
forward.
because none of and that's what the Celestials are coming through with the cloud. I hope that makes sense, but I think
Yeah,
that's
no, and it's,
ultimately what's happening. All those scenes we're seeing in the trailer are just flashbacks of their mind when they were like, because they're like, oh, I'm dormant right now, I'm just a normal human. I think it's like those are the clips that we're seeing. Is them,
I just have these weird ass dreams. I don't know why. I get
Yeah,
weird
like, I think-
Mesopotamia.
I think Icarus and Cersei's like little love thing, little love thing. I think that's just Icarus's flashbacks when he's coming to. I think he's like,
Oh,
wait, Cersei. Yeah, that was. Wait a minute, Sandra.
that's so
I wake up and you with another man already. Like I think that's like
Like I wasn't in no bed, I was sleeping in the mind, girl. Ain't you been keeping up with Dr. Umar? You too, like what?
Yeah, and to be clear to anybody who might be confused, when we're talking dormant, we're not talking like literally asleep. It's like, yeah, your mind, you just forget your past, and you're just gonna a walking husk of what you were, just living your life without a care in the world. And then now suddenly all those previously blacked out memories, like,
It's like, oh yeah,
oh, I'm actually married. Oh crap, like, I'm married to the other Stark brother.
one-on-one.
This is wrong stuff. Like also like Brian Tyree Henry's character Fastos. He's the greatest builder ever. He's the greatest builder, and he builds all weapons and everything. And he one of the things is in the comics, he didn't want to do it no more. He was like, yo, I'm trying to live this life. And they're making a big thing with this here in the movie because he's openly gay in the movie now. So we're gonna see a man living a normal life, you know, literally a normal life, a gay man. But you know, somebody in there is gonna be like, how dare they do this? So you're like, shut up. But like, the thing is, when he's woken up, it's like we need you to do what you're good at. You know, you make these weapons. We need to stop things, and he doesn't want to do that. And so that's the beautiful thing. And then it also ties into people that keep talking about the Inhumans, but for me, it ties into this is gonna start the mutants. This is the mutants jump off.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
With that freaking, sorry, which we can talk about later, but I want to put a freaking stake in the ground about it right now. When we're seeing in the trailer, mainly your breakdown, boss, about all of the older Captain America shields and how
Yeah.
we're seeing them. Two theories. A, I think Kumail's character, since in the comics he was just a really big fan of samurai, so he made himself a samurai. I think he's just loves the Avengers, so he just wanted to like own memorabilia of Captain America. But two, I think there's also a possibility that Thena created those instead of because Thena did create. She was in the Neil Gaiman character comics. She was like creating for Stark, like she was on loan for Stark Business and making weapons. Like she could have, but I know that ties in too much to like, well, Stark's dad created it, and it's like, yeah, but like this woman's been alive forever. Maybe she sparked an idea in him, and like get into that.
Yeah, I mean, created or discovered,
Yeah.
you know? Like, discovered something that was already there. We're all standing on the shoulders of someone else.
Do you think that Thena's love is gonna set all this off too? Because Thena's in love with Crow, who's a
Yes,
deviant.
I want it.
That's what I'm
want
doing.
it.
I want to see
But I don't
Thena's
think
love
it's
with
gonna
Crow.
happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. Also because Angelina. Okay, so as like I want it so bad. I need because I love that connection with the Deviants. I
Yeah.
needed it. But I also think this is Angelina Jolie playing Thena in the MCU, and I think she's gonna be like, not to tie it into that, but right now she's like, I don't need a man. I don't need a partner. I want to be a strong symbol for like women in the army. I want to be like,
I needed to be Billy Bob Thornton as Crow.
yeah.
I want Billy Bob Thornton as Crow.
I think she's gonna do everything so independently and be kind of just like whatever.
Hey, she could be that. You just talk about boy toys, right? She can be an independent woman and still have her deviant squeeze on the side.
I'm just saying she's strong and she don't need a man or a deep.
Exactly. In the trailer, she kind of looks like she's like struggling with something. Like as soon as she cuts those like green ribbons, she looks like she's sad or something.
Love with Crow. Oh yeah, her dad. But also there is something. We're getting baby him. We're getting the baby Thanos. Because of the
Oh, for sure.
you're getting the baby for people who don't know, Lars and Zor, the brothers, who one is the dad of Thanos his mama and has his little ugly ass purple baby who just is really mad because he's like, why am I purple? And like he just because he shouldn't be purple because Thanos is not supposed. He wasn't
My
like
friends are purple. What's going on here?
purple. Like, why am I purple? Like, there's gonna be a dinosaur in 1,000 some years like this and shit. I don't want to be this way. Like,
Well, MT, I want to hear from you. What's your theory for how what kept the Eternals like unaware, and what is now? Why now are they joining the MCU?
One of the main reasons why the Eternals are activated now is because, sort of similar to what, Jay was talking about earlier. It's because of these snaps that were happening on Earth. And, if it was just one snap, it'd be whatever. But there was 3 snaps on Marvel Earth, and that is a big deal. And if you remember in, I believe it was Avengers, when Thor was talking to Nick Fury about, why all the Avengers stuff was happening in Avengers 1, he was like, yo, you guys were messing with the Tesseract. And, like, when you did that, it sent a signal to everybody in the world that Earth is ready for a higher form of war. And so,
Yeah.
this is the Tesseract times 6, 3 times. So the Tesseract 18 times. And so, this happens, and these Celestials are like, what's going on over there? We let those experiments, and like, they're being crazy over there. We gotta go check that out. And so the Eternals are just like, oh shit, like these Celestials are coming back because we've been making too much noise. And, because one of the snaps ended up taking out half of humanity, and therefore, a ton of their celestial experiments throughout the cosmos, they're probably gonna be like, Earth, we should probably get rid of this because this is becoming a problem. So, it's a host of celestials that we may be facing in the Eternals movies. Basically,
Yeah.
at the end of the world, which is why the song in the trailer is like, hints at the end of the world. I think that the celestials
Right.
are coming to potentially get rid of, this human threat that is undergoing their experimentations. But that's
Yeah.
Hi, MT. Are you saying that the Celestials are going to delete the planet? Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Yes, the Celestials want to control all delete Earth because it's malfunctioning.
This is not all that gorgeous. We haven't seen it in the trailer, but do you think that the U.S. Army are going to get involved at all with any of this? We haven't seen any actual normal human involvement to the degree of we need to fight back. But
I mean, if the Celestials end up coming, what did the army do when the Chitauri invaded? They tried to throw a nuke at it, and to end their problem. So if the Celestials come in on their ships, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna nuke. And if you remember in the comics, when the Deviants did that, like in the third one, the Celestials, I don't know, one of those. The Celestials were like, we don't like that, and they started to make cataclysm.
Yeah.
So if the army does get involved, it probably wouldn't be good because the Celestials are way stronger than the United States Army. Are you?
I have a question. My question is, MT, Mary Kill, and why am I Kill of the Why am I always Kill?
You're not, it's Mary, bro.
You gotta kill one. I get it.
We all
I get it.
Mary, B.
you gotta kill Admiral J. You gonna straight up tell us right to our face you gonna kill.
Yeah, you gonna let me know if I'm a jackass, damn it. You ain't gonna be no surprise. Let me know. Don't sit here and ponder shit. Let me know you taking me down. I just need to know I'm done. Like, sit there pondering and talking.
MT, you don't have to answer the question, but I do love that, this idea of bringing the Celestials in. I think they are kind of the villain, that's why if you're gonna do an Eternal story, right? It seems like you do need the Eternals to face off against a cadre of the Celestials. That's how you up the ante from the Avengers. Because otherwise, it's just like, well, if it's any other kind of calamity, the Avengers have been pretty capable of handling all kinds of threats, cosmic or earthbound. So the only thing that I could see you needing the Eternals for, if you're just talking power status-wise, are things like Galactus or Silver Surfer or Celestials,
What do you guys think what the Unimind is gonna look like? Because we're getting it.
Yeah, I think they teased it in the trailer. With the
Yeah, they teased with the bright light. Yeah.
I think it's gonna look fairly comic accurate. I think that because we already have a brain in the MCU already with Ego. Ego was basically a brain. He wasn't a person. He was a floating brain.
Yeah.
So there could be a tie into that. It's like, was
fixed him up. They took one. They was like, well, you are. Well, they're like, you normal. They got some other ones like, look at you all beautiful and blonde hair, blue eyed and dark hair. Then they did other ones. They was like, well, we f***ed up. We went too far.
I feel like they did the deviants so wrong, and that's I feel like the deviants are another pair of like MCU characters that are just like, oh, well, to walk in their shoes, they kind of got sent underneath the waters to live an eternity in darkness and just be ugly.
The
just
deviants
because
are basically
they're ugly, because they are smart, most of them can talk.
they are. The deviants are like Will Smith in that episode of Fresh Prince with Ben Vereen with his daddy, and he didn't want to take him in the truck.
Oh my God.
Like the deviants just like, what the
Fair.
That is what
The
the
saddest moment in television.
Why don't no one want me, Uncle Phil?
Right, that's what the deviants
That
are.
is so accurate, though.
I gotta hang up this post right now. I'm not like we're gonna get this dark.
I like how you remembered it was Ben Vereen, stage legend Ben Vereen. I never made that connection that's who that was.
Fuck. They're like, that's the deviants. They all just, they really just sad. They're like, yo, we want to be up here and shit. Y'all got nice sun. It's pina coladas and there's Kardashians. Now we rather stuff down here.
Honestly, I think they might actually make a case for this in this movie. Like, it's not really based on anything. It's just a hunch. But, like, we see, Killmonger. People love a good, person fighting for disenfranchised people. So, maybe that's what Druid is in this movie. Maybe he's fighting for the deviants and their rights.
And
But
in
yeah.
the comics, I love the rejected man. Also because he was really fine, but I understand.
That's what we got. That's what your love got from. Like, like he was fine.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I gotta say, this has been not only the funniest conversation I've ever had about these rules, I think it is the most informed and knowledgeable debate/discussion about what's going to happen in this movie. Because I think you're right. I think we do have 3 of the 8 most knowledgeable Eternals on this call right now.
Eternals is great.
It's so good.
I
It's
connect
very
to
good.
in it.
The stories are just so because it's like it gets when you read it, it gets real comic booky. But you look at the stories, you're like, oh, this is like, these are heartstrings being pulled. Like this isn't right.
With the Celestials being involved in the Eternals, there is a chance that we could actually see, Apocalypse or a tease of Apocalypse in Eternals.
What's going on?
Celestial experimentation or something like that. So, that or even Namor, because Namor is the first mutant in Marvel Comics. So maybe instead of Apocalypse, who's been done before recently in the X-Men franchise and the Fox, we could actually end up seeing the origins of Atlantis.
Yeah, I see Jay shaking his head. Not in Apocalypse.
Because we never should ever reference X-Men I News. We should never reference him again. Ever. Don't you ever. Look, I don't care how hard and great of a performance Oscar Isaac gave. He looked like his ooh, that's what he looked like. I've seen cosplays like I've seen cosplays look better than what the movie studio did.
They really do need a reboot of Apocalypse. It's actually kind of easy that Apocalypse is so bad in the Fox X-Men franchise. Now Marvel gets to do them right whenever they want to bring in mutants. But yeah, hopefully in this movie, I want to award some points because this is Rogue Theory, and weirdly I have to award points just based off of whatever. So Jess, I'm giving you 1 point for putting this all on Druid because I think Druid is going to be a big part of this. Maybe he is loyal to the deviants. I love that idea for sure. MT, I'm going to give you 2 points for bringing this idea of alerting these Celestials, and as Jay said, Control Alt Delete, but also saying that like mutants like Apocalypse could show up for sure. Jay, I'm going to give you 3 points because you had this great take of like the idea of Galactus coming in. You correctly identified the 4 snaps, which most people can't recall that there's like more than 1 or 2. So that's pretty impressive. And just reminding us of the interesting history about Thanos and how his bloodline with Alars and Tucson, his brother, and how he's connected to that whole genetic history. So good job to all y'all. This was a great conversation. So we're going to talk about some interesting questions around Gemma Chan who's playing Cersei in this movie in just a second. First, we want to thank some friends who helped us make this episode. Quick shout out to our merch. You can find at New Rexer's merch.
And
In my days of
We
working
have-
on this show, have I seen someone present
wow, he was ready for the
Oh, this is the
ad.
card. This is the actual bill.
And
In the
the
pouch.
Wow.
Actual bill. This is let me tell you something. We need to give it
We have a happy customer on the call.
Yeah.
great thanks. Let me tell you something. This is that bill given to him. God bless you, Blue Chew. Okay.
Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no doctor's office or pharmacy trips. It ships right to your BlueChew.com from Code Broke to receive your first one free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this episode. And we want to thank ExpressVPN for sponsoring this episode. Most of us have very little choice when it comes to picking our internet service provider because ISPs operate kind of like monopolies in the regions that they serve. They use that power to take advantage of the customers. And many ISPs log your internet activity. They sell that data on other big tech companies to advertisers. It's a mess. So, to
Ah.
sponsoring this episode. Most of us have very little choice when it comes to picking our internet service provider. Flash Road right now to learn more. All right, so back to Eternals. Gemma Chan, the star of this movie, is playing Cersei after also appearing as the Kree Minerva back in Captain Marvel. Now, obviously, this seems like a case of Marvel Studios just recasting an actor from a smaller MCU role to a more prominent one, and just assuming fans won't get too hung up on it. Good luck with that. But it's you could say this isn't unprecedented. Laura Haddock played Meredith Quill after she had already played Captain America fangirl back in the 1940s, and James Gunn has confirmed that those characters are not related. And Sarah Michelle Yeoh is going to be in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, playing after she played Alita O'Gore, one of the Ravagers in Guardians 1 and 2. But I want to go rogue here and speculate that there could be some in-universe explanation for Gemma Chan in these dual roles. She might be. Go ahead, Ida. Yeah.
It is true. Already had to go first.
Okay, so yeah, like Boss said, I do think it's not gonna be too crazy. I think they just switch characters. But if they want to go crazy with it, what they can do. So let's say there is a scroll. Sorry, I don't know why I said scroll. There's a Nick scroll. There's a scroll, right? And it's not a good scroll, and it does take her identity. What better identity to take than someone that's an Eternal? Especially if after this movie we figure out who, like we know Gemma Chan as Cersei. Someone takes her identity as Cersei in the future and is just like not like it's not gonna be like how Shang-Chi's father. It's not gonna be like I'm actually like so and so, or like how people like use him as just like use his character as I forgot what a doppelganger.
Mandarin?
Yeah. Like how everyone was like, I'm the Mandarin. I don't think it'll be like that, but I think there are going to be an opportunity later on in the, like, even if it's Scroll Invasion, where they're just like talking and they're like, I'm Cersei's, and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, Cersei, we need to listen to her, but it's actually a scroll.
Wait, so do you think the member of the group that we saw in Captain Marvel, the Kree who were like chasing out and hunting down Skrulls, do you think
Yes.
she was a Skrull,
Yes.
like mole on that team?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay. Wild. Like, that is some 40 chess.
You have to go crazy with it because, okay, realistically in the world of Hollywood, yeah, I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah,
That's true. That is
Hey,
pretty
Jim, what do
rough.
you think?
Cersei likes to get a party and a freak on. I would not be surprised if Cersei reigns a Kree. Cersei reigns a Kree.
Okay, this is broke.
Okay.
Cersei has sex. Cersei parties. Let's be real. Cersei has been through years. Like we don't know how many kids Cersei been out. Any group that is, she got the eternal elliptical, and she can keep her figure down. She got the best of mineral waters. It's probably just a kid. Like again, Minerva may be a kid or distant, but y'all say go wrong. Don't
No, that's really good.
I like that more than
I like the mineral water joke because of the trailer. Because she puts her head in the water and the water comes out.
You shove your face in it.
There's mineral water.
It's literal
So
mineral
wait,
water.
I have a question for Jay. So yeah, Athena has a child eventually with a human. So you think that Cersei can have sex with a scroll and it'll be a scroll?
No, it's a Kree. With
Oh,
the
you think
Kree.
it's Kree? Oh, it's a Kree.
Because
Sorry.
she's blue.
Yeah,
She's blue. She has sex with a Kree, and a Kree may be because of the we might find out a Kree is an offshoot of a deviant.
Okay. So actually, it isn't that broken. It makes complete sense.
Yeah, and actually, I can buy that theory.
Don't ask me no question. You know what I'm gonna do.
Right. I'm gonna do right.
MT, you had some thoughts on this. What do you think?
So Minerva dies in Captain Marvel, and so I think at that point, at that death, we get a rebirth of the character of Cersei, who is now done with this life as this, jerky Queen Minerva. And Minerva is the name Minerva is Greek or something, and like and there are
It's the Roman name for Athena, I think.
yes, and so like these are very Greeky and like themed characters in their names. Is it Roman or Greek? I don't know. I can get those from
Roman,
yes.
But it's the same, yeah.
Yeah, same should be different. Right? Anyway, so yeah, I think that this name Minerva is significant because it is tied to the eternal type deal. So when she's reborn, she's like, oh wait, I was an asshole for my last life. I don't want to do that. And so we get that shot of her looking around New York like, I'm alive now. What's going on? And like that Steve Rogers-esque like in a different era now sort of type deal.
I'm gonna get my boy to it.
I think it's.
I didn't bring no sword.
I think this idea of like maybe Eternals have different incarnations that pop up on different planets, or maybe there's like this is what so the 10 Eternals are assigned to Earth, right? But maybe these 10 same actors were put in other places like on Hala, on Torva, on all these other planets in the MCU, and then that's just like there's a Brian Tyree Henry walking around with the other three on Hala somewhere, I don't know. That's one way it could go.
I have some.
Yeah, Jessica, what do you think?
I agree with MT, and also just to amplify the theory, the fact that I keep going back to the No Diamond comics, but in the comics, like the people that are like dormant, once they die in that form, they come back as themselves, the actual superheroes in their planet, or I think it was on the planet or in the ship. Either way, yeah, okay, it was in Olympia. They come back as themselves. So if she did die as Minerva, she's coming back as Cersei. So, not even a crazy theory that could happen.
It's just part of the Eternals mythos, really.
She bangs a Kree.
Stop it!
Bangs a Kree.
You guys are.
I hope the movie starts with those words like the opening crawl.
Like
She
it's
begged the Kree.
Everyone's like, who bangs the Kree?
I'm gonna give all three of you 1 point because I think together collectively we made that make sense.
Honestly, yes, I do.
I agree with all three of them.
But well done. All right, we have time for one more question that all three of you guys are gonna answer. This is our broom question round where we get real silly as if we haven't gotten silly enough.
This has been very serious up to this point.
Now we're gonna. But okay, so here's the question. It was announced this week that the Pim Test Kitchen in Disney's Adventures campus at Disneyland will sell a $100 sandwich that's meant to feed 6 to 8 people called the Pimini. So the question is, what other ridiculous Marvel-inspired food do you want to see served at Avengers campus?
The Collector. It's nothing but all of the damn lunch meats ever collected on the one bread. It's like, what is there? Cappuccino, smell, and no meat. And you get a side order of Howard the Duck fries.
Oh my god. Jay's already thought of this. I feel like he's already had plans to make an Avengers franchise
I
of
just
restaurants.
really thought about this as you asked this question.
It needs to be on the menu.
A thunderbolt toss salad.
Oh my god, no!
Wait,
No,
what?
that's the corn parody. Maybe,
That sounds like something that you do not want. How is a thunderbolt? Is it an elephant ass? Just
this is some, this is quite the meal.
Y'all said that. I think it's a great Caesar salad. Y'all.
Okay, it's not gonna be a great theme park food, but like I can think of like Roots fiber cereal. Um, it's just wood. It looks like wood, but it's good for your colon. I don't know. This is for the elderly guests that come. It's just like my motility is not too good today.
Your meals could, depending. Go
The
look.
salad. I mean, I don't know if you want bread before you get your salad tossed. I don't know if that's order of operations.
Trying to stay on theme, and I made it worse.
Oh God. Well,
All right, I gotta get the point here. As much as I love Mark Lewis, I gotta get the point to Thunderbolt Toss Salad.
you know what? 100%. Give him that point. It was
I never not wanted a point so bad in my life.
That's why I'm giving it to you. You earned it. If my math is correct, I still think, Jay, I believe you have won this episode of World Theory.
You went and brought the 2 meat buns. What?
Come in, man.
Get the group side now.
Anytime Jessica says I hate this, that's our ding ding ding. The round is over. The dinner bell is wrong, and that means it's time for us to say goodbye. But I want to thank all 3 of our guests. A big congratulations to Jay Washington and the rest of us for enjoying your company this episode.
Yes, thank you for coming on. You were fantastic.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, man. I've always been wanting to do this for a while. Seriously, this was as much fun as I expected it to be.
Well, we're glad we lived up to your expectations, and be sure to check out everything Jay's doing. He's a very funny comedian, sometimes a professional wrestler as well. Or is it professional, or is it define what wrestling?
And KB is professional, but it's not.
That's right.
It just run around and just type the wrestling move.
That's so cool.
And then also check out the Points in the Hood show as well. Also, thank you to Jess Clemens. Jess, where can we see you?
Clemens everywhere. Clemens, Team Jacob on gaming stuff.
Thank you for joining us. And MT as well. MT, you got some exciting stuff coming out on the channel with your Rockstars this week. You haven't seen any of it?
It's just Eternals related stuff, maybe with Thanos. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about some Thanos connections. But yeah, you can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter or Instagram, whatever. So
Well, that's it for this episode of Rogue Theory. Thank you for watching. Support our many great merch options at DirectStarsMerch.com. Follow me at EA Boss. Follow New Rockstar. Subscribe here on YouTube. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
guys.
Quick! A quicker picker-upper. Bounty.
Boss, and Marvel's Eternals sets itself apart from the MCU with stunning visuals. But because it's an MCU movie, of course, it has an uncanny obsession with Captain America's shield, something I thought only weirdos like us have. This trailer ended with a shout out to Captain Rogers, and in my breakdown, I found at least 3 different shields matching the designs of versions of Cap's shield we've seen before. So let's dive into what this shield connection is all about and what it tells us about where the Eternals have been all this time. Now, of course, the Eternals are a group of ageless, godlike protectors created by the Marvel gods, the Celestials. And this trailer ends with the Eternals speculating about the post-Endgame status of Earth's more famous lineup.
So now that Captain Rogers and Iron Man are both gone, who do you think's gonna lead the Avengers?
Calling Steve Captain Rogers is a bit of a choice. Like, you could just see it as Sprite keeping tabs on the fact that Captain America is now a designation carried by Sam Wilson, meaning her Disney Plus subscription is up to date, or really she's just sharing Gilgamesh's login. But really, Captain Rogers just sounds like what he was called before the title of Captain America came to mean something more than a campy propaganda tool. It was something people who knew him from the 1940s might call him. And note how Sprite's eyeline on that question was to Kingo, and it's Kingo who was the first to burst into laughter when Icarus volunteers himself to lead the Avengers. That might be because Kingo seems to be a huge Captain America fanboy. On his private jet, you can see Cap's original shield, the one that he carried in World War II. It's either a replica of the one that's supposed to be in the Smithsonian, or since the Eternals seem to possess a trove of priceless artifacts, including other stuff supposed to be in museums, and the freaking Holy Grail, this shield might be the real thing. Similarly, it looks like Kingo has worked in Cap's shield into his Bollywood films, because in the background you can make out 4 guards carrying rounded shields that seem to have the central star and concentric stripes of Cap's shield design. Actually, this same shield can be seen way more clearly earlier in the trailer, held by a warrior. That warrior's look and the whole setting just makes me think this could be part of the Eternals' liberation of Babylon in ancient times. So did Captain America's Stars and Stripes design actually date back to ancient Mesopotamia? I mean, the implication of Cap's original look in that first Cap film, when Howard Stark gave him that vibranium shield, was that this was all just a suggestion by Steve, an upgrade from his patriotic USO costume.
I had some ideas about you.
You know, I guess you could say there are other explanations, like maybe this scene in the Blue Room could be taking place in the modern era, or at least post-1945, and Xena's just fighting a LARPer. Or maybe that shield design could just be a coincidence or a set designer Easter egg. You know, they don't always think too much about the logical implications of this stuff. Or some time travel explanation, like the Eternals themselves are unstuck in time, but they just use that power for hilariously basic stuff, like giving their past selves ideas for cosmetic designs on shields. Actually, let me write that down for a future video idea. Okay, great, no one will watch that one. The possibility I am most interested in is the character Phastos, Brian Tyree Henry, the great engineer of the Eternals, who, along with Ajax and Cersei, have helped humanity with advancements in agriculture, technology, and medicine. The basic idea is that all the seemingly miraculous technological discoveries mankind has made, Phastos has been in the background being like, try plugging that into that. In this trailer, we hear the words of Ajax.
We have watched and guided. We have helped them progress. Throughout the years, we have never interfered.
A statement that seems a bit self-contradictory, right? Like, how can you help humanity progress with these cheat codes, yet not consider that to be interference? Actually, I assume that will be the argument of Drigg, who seems to be living with a brainwashed cult in a camp off the grid. But I think what this means is, yeah, the Eternals aiding humanity is a hypocritical overreach of their non-interventionalist approach. And that inner conflict has defined the Eternals' existence, as they have struggled to find a loophole to help humans figure things out on their own. And I think they finally found an answer in the 1940s with the Super Soldier program, with S.H.I.E.L.D., and with the eventual outgrowth of those things, the Avengers. But before I continue, this video is sponsored by Sheath Underwear. Sheath boxers are designed to keep your bits gently separated for maximum comfort. Sheath has 3 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate, cool, and most importantly, comfortable.
Oh my god, that looks so uncomfortable.
Hanging out, having a good sheathunderwear.com/newrockstars for 20% off, and do your boys a favor. That's sheathunderwear.com, or just click the link below and use the code newrockstars for 20% off. While the Stars and Stripes design of this shield seemed to come from the Star-Spangled Man with a plan, its construction remains a mystery, with Howard Stark forging it from vibranium, despite knowing nothing about what's supposed to be the world's only source of vibranium, the giant meteor-formed Mount Bashenga in Wakanda.
What about this one? No, that's just a prototype. That's a meteor. Vibranium. That's the rarest metal on Earth. What you're holding there? That's all we've got.
So Howard Stark must have gotten that vibranium from somewhere or from someone, and I think that mystery source could have been Phastos, posing as an engineer working alongside Howard on that team. And when Howard gets Steve's design wish list, he turns to his guy and says, "Hey, you're the one who found all this rare metal. How the hell are you gonna stick paint to it?" And Phastos just goes, "Hey, I got a design that's worked for me before." It actually lines up with what Cap is going for. Similarly, if you think about this, Dr. Erskine's Super Soldier Serum was a mystery cocktail that was upgraded from the serum used by Red Skull, something many others tried to replicate until recently it became the central focus of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. We never knew what that missing ingredient was that made it different from the one that Red Skull took, and I think Erskine could have been supplied some herbal medicinal ingredient by Ajax, the great healer, also posing as a S.H.I.E.L.D. scientist alongside Phastos. Remember, in the trailer, her tank of plants contains something of a teal color, which matches the color of the Super Soldier Serum. That, right there, could be the missing ingredient that made the serum that Steve took miraculously work. Finally, I think the Eternals' goal has been to give humanity a superhuman protector so that they could step back and let mankind avenge itself. That's why they're such big fans of Captain Rogers. It's because he and his buddies have been taking care of business, like a teen who just got his driver's license driving their drunk parents home. Team DD right here. But now those days are over. Captain Rogers and Tony Stark, the son of the engineer Phastos inspired, are both gone. They gave their lives to take out Thanos, who, like Cersei and the rest of the Eternals, was an Eternal himself. He had a deviant gene, but he was an Eternal. And remember, Thanos was a farmer and environmentalist, obsessed with everyone having enough natural resources. Really,
Damn, I haven't even saved this yet. God damn.
Cersei, Jack, and Phastos have always strived for. So Thanos' mission to cull half of all life for the benefit of the other half could have been a mission sanctioned by the Celestials. Similar to how in the Infinity Gauntlet comics, Thanos was found not guilty by the Living Tribunal, who ruled that his snap did not violate any natural laws. If you think about it, the MCU Celestials that we met, Ego, Aeson the Searcher, they seem to be pretty amoral a-holes. But now when the Eternals replacement stopped Thanos from carrying out that population control, the Celestials might be returning to Earth to have a word with their eternal creations and terminate their position, aka this planet, setting up a pretty high-stakes battle for the end of the world. Oh, demonetization! To support this channel, check out one of our great merch options at NorXersMerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at
All right.
and Marvel Studios Eternals released a full trailer looking nothing like a Marvel film aside from these lazy-ass notions.
Okay. Damn. So, look at that. Under 2 hours. Did 2 of these. Not bad looking. Not terrible looking. Again, just setting shit up. I wanted to throw this hat on this picture. Maybe probably in a different color like that blue color to match the uniform. I forgot. I made his hair happen, which, you know, it works for me. But either way, all this stuff is cool, man. I'm really enjoying this. I hope all this stuff looks like a single character. You know, it's important to have a solid reference. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing these with more important characters. You can see on some of these older ones, I didn't even have the visor. That was an accident that happened on this one here. I accidentally put the visor stuff on the mask layer, and you know, it worked out. It worked out in the end. Either way. But yeah, tons of fun. Tons of fun. So yeah, man, that's going to be the end of this video. That's also going to be the end of this series for this particular character. I'm going to be jumping in and doing some more photo bashing. Hey, if I could do 2 in less than an hour and I could do 3 in, you know, let's say less than 3 hours, who knows how many I'll be doing in the future per video, things like that. But this has been a lot of fun, man. I'm kind of happy that I'm doing this now. You know, I hope it works out in the end. I remember when I first started doing these photo bashes, I was like, oh, I'm a little bit afraid of doing it. I even did the first couple off camera. I think it was like these 2 I did off camera before I started it, and I might have started this one on 3. I can't really remember, but either way, I hope it all works out, because I do have some ideas for some other characters, but I started pushing those ideas to the back of my mind when I was just doing sketches in my sketchbook, because I didn't want to think about the celebrity reference too much, so I just started Xing them out. But now that I'm to it, it may actually work out in my favor to do so. So, you know, I may be doing it in the future. Either way, I'm G Mr. Drew. That's at G Mr. Drew on all social media. You can follow, like, and subscribe. Links are in bio, along with my website, gmrdrew.art. You can check me out. see everything that I'm working on, and yeah, man. Any any support is welcome and appreciated, and all of you who watch these things, I really appreciate it, and hey, man, it is what it is. As long as you're having fun, I'm happy. So please and thank you for enjoying the Andrew Glowczewski experience. This has been episode 154, photo bashing, and I'll be back to do some more. Uh, yeah, let me just get some time to think about it, and I'll be back. Love y'all. Peace.